White. So I thought we could start with just getting to know Ellen White a little bit briefly as well. I don't know if you heard this acronym. There's an acronym that they sometimes use in, like, if you read a book about soul winning, you might find this acronym there. It's not like you have to use it, but some of you might have heard it. It's FORT. Basically, it's an acronym for kind of like an outline for how to have a conversation with someone, to get a conversation into a spiritual conversation. It's kind of like a soul winning conversation, like suggestion. So FORT. So I was thinking we could use this for Ellen White maybe, as to get to know her a little bit. So the F stands for family. Family. I don't have a board, but you just have to. You have to be a little bit more attentive, you know, than normal maybe. You have to. I don't have a board, so you have to write your notes instead, right? So like everything I would have written on the board, you have to write on your. So
you know that Zoom allows to write. You can switch the screen, and there is like a board, and you can write whatever you want.
No, actually, let's try that. I have actually never tried that. I haven't used Zoom so much. That's share screen probably. Okay, let's try. I think I found it here.
Perfect.
Okay, so can you see it?
Yeah, if you can make a little bigger fonts, that helps.
Okay, let's see. How do we make it bigger? Whoops. Maybe I can just do like this.
Okay, we'll just keep writing. We can handle. Can you see over there?
We can try to.
It's doable.
Okay, I guess we got a new one here. Oh, I don't know. That's okay, anyway, we'll learn this. We'll start over. So the F stands for family. Then the O stands for occupation. The R stands for religion. The T stands for testimony. So anyway, tell me a little bit about Ellen White. You don't have to follow this outline, but you can share on those points if you want to, or if there are other thoughts. Yes, as we start, like, it's good to have a little bit in mind who is or who was Ellen White. That we'll be talking quite a bit about the next 2 weeks. Anyone, just speak up. You know anything about her family, for instance?
Oh, you are asking us?
Yeah.
Okay,
the family she grew up in, or her own family, the family she started herself later.
She had 2 sisters, right? 2 sisters? 2 sisters. Oh, 2 sisters.
2 sisters? They actually had more than that, actually. There were two boys and 6 girls. Ellen White, she was the youngest. Well, actually, Ellen White did you know that Ellen White had a twin? Yeah. Elizabeth. They were the 2 youngest ones. And then they had 4 other sisters and 2 boys. It was a large family. I guess it was more common in that time to have large families. Anything else about her family?
It was a Methodist family.
Methodist family. Exactly. That went and listened to William Miller. She was a young girl when she heard William Miller preach and was really inspired by his messages. What else? Maybe about the family she started herself later on, and probably more familiar to us, maybe a little bit more, or to some of us.
Married to James White.
Married to James White, exactly, which was one of the key leaders in the beginning of the Advent movement, the Adventist church. They were a great team. God revealed things to her, and he made it happen many times. That's kind of how it worked. He was a doer, for sure. A good leader, great leader. What about her kids? You know anything about her kids?
4 sons, 4 sons, and 2 of them died.
Yes, 4 sons exactly. 2 of them died. One was, he was like 15, I think, 15 or 16 when he died. Henry Nichols, and then one was like 3 months. John Herbert was the youngest one when he died. And then the 2, what you know the names of the 2 other ones? They're the 2 most well-known ones since they lived longer. You know anyone?
Arthur and wait.
Arthur is actually, he was actually not. He was the grandchild. So Willie White. Willie White is the most known one. William Clarence. He's the only one that got children. So all Ellen White's relatives came from Willie. And then you had James Edson. James Edson, he was both of them did a great work. God really used both of them. James Edson worked a lot for the blacks down in the south of the US in a time when it was even more, much more difficult to work for the blacks than it is today, even though we have racism and stuff today as well in the US. Willie worked closely with Ellen White. He helped her a lot, and then he led out the work of the White estate, basically, the legacy of her.
You lost your voice. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we do.
Okay, I've met like 10 of Ellen White's relatives or so, including the oldest living relative of Ellen White. I will show you a picture of her later today in the afternoon. It's a very nice lady. Anyway, so what else? So we said she was a Methodist. We told a little bit about her family. So she went through some tragedies. Anything about her story growing up, like her testimony, like some of the highlights of what she experienced growing up?
She had an accident when she was a child. Somebody threw a stone in her face. And
yes.
she went into a coma after that.
Yes. Yeah, when she was 9 years old, someone threw a rock at her. And yeah, they thought she would die, basically. The doctors thought she would die. I guess today she would have been probably significantly better off. But after that, she couldn't go to school. So when you see how amazing, incredible her books are in so many different topics, and she only had a few years of school, it's incredible. But it's very interesting. Did you know that this was kind of like, it contributed to her conversion story, actually? She describes this experience later. You can read about it. You can read herself talk about her testimony. And she says that this was actually a blessing in disguise. She says that she might have never known Jesus if it wasn't for this experience. It was very tough for her. It was very hard. Like she loved school. She couldn't continue to go to school. She looked very ugly in the beginning. And like her father couldn't even recognize her when he came home from a business trip. And she was very sad. It was very, she had to stay in bed for a long time. She was so weak. Even when she was 15 years old, she could hardly go out of bed. And this was like 6 years later. So it was a major, I wonder if Satan knew that God wanted to use her and he tried to somehow hinder, like he wanted to kill Moses, right? For instance, if he knew that Ellen White was a chosen messenger of God that God wanted to use. I don't know if you know anything about that, but anyway, it was definitely a major thing in her life. Any other thoughts about Ellen White? Like, who was she? What did she do? What is she known for? What are some facts about her? When did she live? When was she born? When did she die? Anything?
1927, 1827, 1915.
Yeah, exactly. She died actually on my birthday in 1915. I was born 4 hours after her death, 4.5 hours and some years, obviously.
You are old, man.
So, yeah. Anyway,
She was at 14.
baptized at 14. Yeah, she was very young. She had a profound Christian experience from a young age. And she was married at 18, actually. Pretty young. She was about to turn 19. James was 25. This is 1846, August 30. What else? So she was what was her occupation? What was some of the like major titles you could give her?
One of the most prolific writer.
Yes, one of the most prolific writers. She wrote a lot. You know how much she wrote? Approximately?
10,000 pages.
100,000 pages, actually, approximately. And about 26 books, or basically 26 books if you don't count the compilations. If you count the compilations, you have more than 100. She's considered the most translated female non-fiction author in the entire history of literature. And she's considered the most translated American author of either gender. And recently this was very interesting. There's like this renowned magazine in the US, the Smithsonian magazine. And they ranked the 100 most significant, the 100 most important Americans of all times. And Ellen White was on that list, together with, presidents like Abraham Lincoln, George Washington. Then you had Ellen White there. And it's really cool. It's like 10 religious people. She was one of the 10, so basically one of the 10 most significant, influential religious people in America's history, according to like a secular, renowned magazine. And like her home, you can go to just a few hours from where I am right now. You can visit her home in Elmshaven, California. You can also visit her home in Battle Creek, in Michigan, and in Australia, 3 places she lived in her life, and get guided tours there. And those are actually like historic landmarks in the US. They recognize her influence as a religious figure and as an author.
Could you send us the link to the Smithsonian's?
Yes, I can try to do that later on. Yeah.
Thank you.
So what else? So she was an author. What else was she? That's, I guess, one of the main things she is known for.
She was a millionaire.
A millionaire.
Yeah, I don't know if you read that quote. They accused her of being a millionaire. She says, I have no money, but wherever she passed by, she opened some lifestyle center or some school or some institution. So they said they thought she's super rich.
Yeah, that's true. You could, if you didn't know her so well, you might think that she had a lot of money, because God definitely prospered their plans when they were buying new properties and stuff. So she was an author. In addition to being an author, she was a speaker too. She was preaching quite a bit, but I guess she's more known as an author than a speaker. And obviously she was a prophet, or she preferred to describe herself as a messenger of the Lord. Not that she denied being a prophet, but she wanted to avoid the prejudice that people had against prophets in that time. And she says that she was more than a prophet. So anyway, that's a little bit about Ellen White, to kind of have that a little bit in mind. So let me give you an outline here, what we will be covering. We have almost 20 hours of classes, I think, or maybe 18 hours or so. No, it's maybe 20 exactly. I don't know exactly. Roughly 20 hours. So basically, you can divide up what we'll be looking at in 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5, 6 sections. So first, we'll talk about foundation, or we might call it introduction. We'll lay a foundation on the gifts of prophecy. We'll kind of look at some foundational things, lay some groundwork before that we will build on later on. So that will be a little bit what we'll be doing in the beginning. We will then have a section on faith, how to have full confidence in God's prophet for this generation. We'll be spending several hours on this on tomorrow, I guess. Tomorrow and maybe the day after that. I think it's important, even though you may say that you believe in Ellen White, I think it's very important to have a strong confidence in her inspiration. So we'll learn some interesting things, some faith-building things, some insight. It will learn us some. It will teach us some useful lessons in a number of ways, and some good things to know also for witnessing purposes, to be able to share with people. So I think you will enjoy that part. That's one of the favorite parts. Some of the things we'll be sharing there is some of the favorite things people like usually when I teach on this topic. Then we'll talk about another very important topic or section. I call it importance. We'll be talking a little bit about, we'll spend some hours on that as well. The importance of Ellen White and her ministry. Like why really care about her, you know? Why, you know, some say, why care about the lesser light if we have the greater light? Why care about Ellen White? They say, if we have the Bible. Why would you need another prophet? We'll hope to answer and look at some of those kind of questions and see that why this gift is a very important gift. It's a gift we greatly need, as she says herself, in the perils, amid the perils of these last days. So that's an important section. I think many times we don't have an understanding of that in the degree we need to, I think, to receive the full blessing of this gift. If we don't realize the importance, we'll not receive all of the blessing God has in mind for us through this gift. So that will be one section we'll be covering. Then we'll be talking about a section that I think is also very important and very interesting as well. I call it attacks. There are a lot of attacks against her ministry. The devil is not happy about, not only when she was 9 years old, Satan would have been happy if he could hinder her progress and her ministry, but in many different ways he has been attacking her ministry. There are many attacks from the outside. There are many misconceptions that non-Adventists have. We will not get so much into that. We might mention a couple examples here and there, but I want to focus on what I think is most important for you to be aware of, and that is basically attacks from the inside, from within our own church. There are many misconceptions within our own church. There are many things that are said even from the pulpit of our own church that are detrimental, that are dangerous, that are making of non-effect her writings. And she says that the very last deception of Satan is to make of non-effect, basically, the spirit of prophecy. So we'll be looking at some common misconceptions. I think although you probably don't believe in several of the common misconceptions that some Adventists believe in, there are some. Satan has some attacks for the liberals and some more for the conservatives. There are, I think we will clarify some misconception that most likely most of you, or maybe all of you, may believe in, and it's understandable. I believed in those things growing up, and until quite recently, until I was writing the book. Actually, some of the things I understood when I was really researching in the connection of writing the book. I learned some of those things. So that will be an important and interesting section, attacks, the very last deception of Satan. Then we'll talk about also what we oftentimes call hermeneutics, which is a fancy word which basically means principles of interpretation. We could also have called this section how to read Ellen White. And this is actually at the root. A failure to understand this topic is at the root of a lot of problems, actually. It's at the root of most of the criticism from the outside against Ellen White. A lot of that is based on faulty hermeneutics, faulty principles of reading and applying the messages of Ellen White. And it's at the root of many problems, misconceptions, whatever, in our church as well. It's very important. It's pretty much as important to understand hermeneutics, how to read and apply the writings of Ellen White. It's almost as important to know that as it is to know that she was a prophet. So I think I have been blessed by, I actually recently wrote, my book is actually just getting published in Lithuanian. And so actually I just wrote and I added something for the appendix of the book. They actually wanted me to, I talked with the union, the conference president there, and they wanted me to add something about this in the appendix of the book. So I actually wrote, I started into it a little bit deeper recently. I've been teaching on it before. But it's a blessing. It's very useful things to learn. And so I think that will be an exciting section as well. useful principles that helps us to rightly understand, to in a correct and complete way receive our messages without getting into any extremes, any ditches. You know, Ellen White writes that very interesting quote. She says that there is in human nature a tendency to run to extremes, she says. There is in human nature a tendency to run to extremes, and from one extreme to another, she says. And then she says, many are fanatics. So one thing that will help us actually to avoid both a liberal extreme and a conservative extreme is to have a correct understanding of hermeneutics. This is something, you know, I appreciate Ellen White for many years. But when I started to read her, especially since many people around me didn't really appreciate her, I didn't really understand some of these principles. So I misapplied some of the statements sometimes because I didn't really understand it correctly. Now I have a better picture of rightly receiving and applying her messages. And then anyway, so this will be an exciting section, and then basically we'll kind of have a conclusion / appeal in the end, kind of wrap things up. And also I will be sharing in the end some recommendations. 20 hours, it's nice, we have some time together, but it's a big topic. We could have spent 50 hours. You know, there are so many things you could have gotten into. Some of the things we'll be talking about, we could have spent many more hours on it. So I will give you some recommendations as well in the end, and for different topics, different areas that are very useful. Some of them you can find for free online. So that's a little bit of an outline. And so we have some great stuff to cover and many things to look at. So we'll try to use the time well. We'll try to start on time, try to end on time, which is basically very soon now. We're just wrapping up. And we'll use the Bible as our textbook. And that's a key textbook, obviously. We'll also be using my book. I guess I will probably make some of it available electronically. Probably I want to share some handouts and stuff with you, and materials as well, and presentations and so on. I guess later on as well. Yeah, go ahead.
Will you share your PowerPoints with us too?
Yes, I can do that. It would be nice if I guess we could create like a Google Drive folder or something, and then I can put PowerPoints and like handouts and things like this in there. That we'll be using. So anyway, I think let's turn to 2 Chronicles 20:20. Let's end with, so we're getting ready to end for now. Time went quickly. This is just a warm-up, give you a little bit of a teaser of what is coming. 2 Chronicles 20:20. Could someone read that for us loud and clear if you have it? 2 Chronicles 20:20. Beautiful, beautiful promise.
And they rose early in the morning and went forth into the wilderness of Tekoa. And as they went forth, Jehoshaphat stood and said, "Hear me, O Judah, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. Believe in the Lord your God, so shall he be established. Believe his prophets, so shall he prosper."
Thank you, thank you. I want especially to notice the part, this is a powerful chapter and story in general, but it says, believe in the Lord your God and you shall be established. Believe his prophets and you shall prosper. This is, you know, the gift of prophecy is just that. It's a gift. We don't always think of it as a gift. Sometimes people don't like prophets because they share truth that people don't always like. But when we rightly understand it, it's a great gift. The spirit of prophecy, the writings of Ellen White, it's a great gift that God gave to his last day church, to his remnant church in December of 1844. That's when she got her first vision at the age of 17. December of 1844 and onward, God gave this beautiful gift, which is a great blessing in so many ways, in every area of our life, when we rightly understand it and receive it and apply it. So I pray that God will help us to appreciate and to fully receive the blessing of this gift. Some people think of the testimonies for the church as something negative. But the good news is the testimonies for the church is not testimonies against the church. It's testimonies for the church.
Amen.
And when we realize that and receive that gift, we will be greatly blessed. So I'm excited. I hope you are too. And we have many more things to cover. This was just a little warm up, just a little bit of we didn't have time to get through much today, but we have given an outline which is useful. We know a little bit what is coming, and now I guess we'll pray, and you will probably go and eat breakfast or something, and I will go to sleep over here, and then we'll see you again later. So maybe Ludo, you could pray with us as we close.
Yes. So a closing prayer. Our loving Heavenly Father, we thank you so much that you are bringing to our attention this precious topic, the gift you are giving to each one of us individually and to us as a church. Please bless Joakim as he goes to sleep. Give him good night rest. At Weimar, where we have brothers and sisters striving to reach out the world through health ministry, the young people who are studying there, and please bless us here as we go about doing good today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Joachim. Thank you for your evening time, because this is time to go to sleep, right, for you?
Yeah. So it's okay.
Thank you.
Nice to see you all. See you later.
So tomorrow, I mean tonight evening, it's tomorrow 10 minus 10, 7. So you just wake up and you continue.
yeah, basically. So the next thing I see is you again.
Have a good night rest. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, one more question. Are you there? I'm trying to record it. Can we share it with our students? Can we have it on our YouTube?
Yeah, that's fine.
No secrets. It's okay.
So, by the way, could you make like a Google Drive folder or something that you can invite to, and then I can put in files there so that the students can see it? That would be great.
I don't know how to do it, but I'll figure it out. I'll do it for you.
Great. We'll probably use it for the afternoon. Some of it. I will put something in there that we will use, I think. So it's good.
So, I guess when you wake up, you will have it because you go to sleep, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good. Okay. Thank you.
Good night over there.
Good night. Bye.
Bye.